Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and iOS 14.4.2 and iOS 14.5 Beta 7 have been out for, well, a couple weeks with one of them and a couple days or a few days with the other. And so I wanted to talk about the overall experience, what to expect as far as when to expect the public release and maybe the release candidate, and much more. So let's go ahead and first talk about a new feature or a change that they've made with iOS 14.5 Beta 7. And that change carries across to older versions as well, as I checked it out later on, but I noticed when you go into music, if you go to browse and maybe you're looking for new music, scroll all the way to the bottom and you'll see it says browse by category. Prior to this, it said genres. So they've changed this. Now you go to browse by category, and then here's all of your categories if you want to see what new music was released. So if we pick jazz, for example, wait for it to load, you can go down to new releases, see what came out, and then listen to any of those new songs. So that's been changed. It's a very small change, but now it says browse by category instead of genres. So it's just been updated a little bit as far as that goes. Apple continues to update music, and as you can see, they updated it with DMX since unfortunately he passed away. So they've updated it with that, and they continually update this regularly, it seems, and they can do it on the back end now instead of having to push an update to change all of it like a web page. So it seems like they can do that a little bit more easily. Now, the next thing is not a new feature, but something my friend Steve Mosier mentioned on Twitter, where he was saying he didn't see much in iOS 14.5 Beta 7, and Beta 7 was made just 6 days after Beta 6. So March 25th to March 31st is when Apple looks like they actually finalized those betas, and then they release them to us much later in whatever release cycle they have. So they have regular builds on their side that they're testing, and then they'll release them to us as they seem to be more finalized. So that's sort of how those work. That was found in the codes. Now, as far as iOS 14.4.2, well, that's the latest release at this time to the public. I have it running on my iPhone 11 Pro Max, and this particular version is okay. Quite a few people still complain with a lot of issues, such as Bluetooth, for example. That seems to be the number one issue people are facing, not only on 14.4.2, but also 14.5 Beta 7. Apple changed something where Bluetooth just isn't responding the same way. So a lot of people are having issues with that. Also, people are having apps crash with 14.4.2, as well as lagging and stuttering still when closing an app. Many people see that stutter from time to time. That's fixed with 14.5 so far. Also, a lot of people are mentioning heating issues with their phone with 14.4.2, where the phone's just getting hotter than it normally would when you're playing a game or just using it for regular tasks like watching video. Also, some odd issues with iMessage and the music app. So quite a few issues people are still experiencing. This should be fixed mostly, along with other issues I'll mention in a moment, with 14.5. So there's definitely some good things about 14.4.2. It seems to be stable. Battery is okay. It seems better than 14.4.1 based off the community poll. So we'll talk about more of battery life in a moment as far as what to expect with 14.5. But with 14.4.2, about 59% or so are saying that battery is better than it was before. So it seems to be getting better, which is a good sign. But with iOS 14.5 Beta 7, it's been pretty good for me, but there's still some issues that remain. For example, one issue that I continually have had with 14.5 Beta 7, or I experienced, was within messages. When you're in messages and you try to send a message, it wouldn't work. So if we go into messages, if I'm in messages and I just type a message such as hi and go ahead and send it, sometimes that button just doesn't let me send. I actually had to close out of messages and then go back in order to send it before. So that's the main issue I've run into with that. I also don't think the battery is reporting 100% accurate, but I'll talk about that in a moment. Also, the battery calibration does take some time. It's calibrating on the iPhone 11. It's only for the 11, 11 Pro, and 11 Pro Max, but you can see it says important battery message, and it's recalibrating. So it's going to take some time to figure out what the actual capacity of the battery is, but those are the issues that I've seen. Not a huge amount of issues. It's been really smooth for me, and it's been nice and fast closing out of music, for example. No stutters, closing, anything like that. So that seems to be fixed, and I'm not the only one having issues with messages, for example. Others are reporting that messages are just not being delivered, or texts are not showing their notifications again. We've had some some weird notification issues before, and it seems like this is returned. Also, some people are reporting touch responsiveness issues with 14.5 beta 7, where sometimes you could be moving through, just scrolling or touching an app and it doesn't open initially. Maybe you're opening music and it doesn't open. Sometimes it does. So some people are seeing that. Also, someone said that it reset their eSIM. So maybe their network connection just automatically reset regardless of their subscription to that carrier. So some people have said that. And then other people are saying that their brightness is changing randomly. This is something I've seen newer with beta 7. I didn't hear about this before, but people are saying that brightness and volume levels are changing on their own. So they're just readjusting by themselves throughout the day. Of course, auto brightness will help, but they're talking about more extreme adjustments where maybe you're just using it and it drops to all the way down to 0, and then you can't see your screen and you have to go to the control center and slide it back up. That's been an issue that people are mentioning. And like I mentioned before, quite a few people continue to have issues with Bluetooth. Why this is, we're not really sure. But right now, Bluetooth, LTE, and Wi-Fi connectivity seems to be an issue. But number one seems to be with Bluetooth and AirPods Pro, for example, cutting out when you're listening to them or just randomly disconnecting. So people are seeing that. The other issues that are a little bit more rare that people are seeing are stuttering or lag on the home screen, whether that be scrolling or going into an app. Other people are saying that the battery percentage is not accurate again. So that was an issue with beta 6. People are saying that with beta 7 as well, where the battery percentage maybe on the home screen or the lock screen may not match what you have in the upper right when you pull down the control center, for example. So people are seeing that. Also, people are still seeing green tint on their displays. This is not everyone, but a few people are still seeing that. And it seemed to be mentioned more this time with beta 7 than beta 6. So people are definitely having that issue. And then there's two more issues. People are saying they have issues with Siri still, where Siri is just sounding odd or just not working well. And Siri seems to be getting improved, but right now it's being worked on, and we can tell that. Also, people are saying that they're having heating issues with the phone getting hotter than it normally would. It's normal for your phone to get warm when doing intensive tasks. If you're using it to record video, for example, it will get warm. That's just the nature of processors. When they're warm or when you're charging, your battery will warm up. It's just the way things work, but it's getting excessively warm, people are saying. So it seems to be an issue for a lot of people. Now, the good thing about this is performance for most people has been pretty good. When you're scrolling through, when you're playing an app, when you're loading a game or the App Store, for example, things seem to be nice and fast for most people. There aren't a whole lot of complaints as far as performance. That's going back to the iPhone 6s Plus even. So with the 6s Plus, I booted this up not too long ago. You'll see that it reloaded music for the first time here. It's taking a moment, and it seems to be okay. It stuttered a little bit, and then it will catch up. And that's pretty normal these days with a 6s Plus. So you'll see it stuttering a little bit, and then it will pick up speed. So it's not amazing, but it's better than what it was before, according to most people, as far as beta 6 is concerned. So that's good with older devices, and Apple's still supporting this, which is nice, but whether or not they do with iOS 15 is yet to be seen. As far as overall battery life, well, first let's talk about the iPad because I've had some issues with that. Now with iPadOS, I haven't had any issues with using iPadOS. So I haven't had any issues with applications crashing, freezing, slowing down. Settings is nice and fast. Everything just seems to work like you would expect. The major issue I have with my iPad, as I've mentioned many times before, is the battery life. Now some people said check the battery health, see what it's at. Now you can't technically go in here and check the battery health within the settings. So let me turn brightness down a little bit so you can see it better, but you'll see it was last charged to 69% 28 minutes ago when I was actually checking the current battery health today. So what I did is I used the application Coconut Battery and checked the battery health of this. It has 96.6% battery health and 162 cycles. So that's in a year's worth of use since it's been out, about a year, a little bit more than a year, and I use it every single day. So that's pretty good. 80% after 2 years is normal. And based on that, I should still be getting about 10 hours of screen on time, but I'm just not. I'm getting about 5 hours of screen on time. So you'll see I'll use it a couple hours, 2 hours and 22 minutes and an hour and 3 minutes of screen off time. And I'll get down to 50%. You'll see I'm at 66% here. And not too long ago, it was at 69% 28 minutes ago. The screen has been on as I've been recording, taking photos for the thumbnail, things like that. But in general, it should be getting much better battery life. And like I said before many times, I'll wipe it if it does not improve and see if that improves it. But I thought I'd share that with you as far as the overall battery health with that device. Now, as far as battery life on the iPhone, well, it's actually been pretty good for me. At least by the time I go to bed, it's over 50% usually. But if we go to the settings and then go down to battery health, you'll see I'm at 100%. Now, this is pretty normal for me 6 months out or so from the iPhone's launch. It's not quite 6 months yet, but I charge this every night using a MagSafe, a Belkin MagSafe charger I showed a different video on with a stand. It fast charges. I charge it every night, all night, take it off the charger in the morning. We're at 100%. So it's doing well there. And my battery life will go back a couple days. I had 2 hours and 44 minutes of screen on time, 15 minutes of screen off time, and I used about 40% of my battery, maybe a little bit more. And like I've said before, I'm getting about 6 hours of screen on time, 7 hours of screen on time. That is not great, but it feels like I'm getting the same when it would report before where I was getting 10 to 12. This seems to be a continued issue. So if I go back a couple days here, we'll go back a few days, or here you'll see 3 hours and 17 minutes. Then we go back to this beta, 1 hour and 9 minutes at 25%. So it's really hit or miss, and I'm kind of surprised it's telling me that I'm getting such little battery screen on time, because it feels like much more or normal. I never have an issue with having too little battery. So it seems to be something that, whether or not it's calculating properly, like I mentioned before, not showing properly on the lock screen, it could be an issue with that, along with the iPhone 11 recalibrating. Maybe there's something to go along with that. We'll have to wait and see when it comes out. But it easily lasts me through a day, and so I have no complaints as far as that part goes. Now that leads me to, should you install iOS 14.4.2 if you haven't already? Well, I would say if you haven't installed that already, definitely install it for the security updates, unless you're on a prior version and maybe you're trying to customize it or something like that, then sure, you could stay on the older version, but I generally value security, and you'll see that was kind of odd. It switched to airdropping or handoff rather to my HomePod, and I haven't moved it all, just brought it close to my iPhone 11 Pro Max. But if you're looking to update and you haven't already, I would say security outweighs the other benefits or the other things. Make sure your phone is secure, and then wait for iOS 14.5 to come out. Now, if you're wondering if you should install iOS 14.5 Beta 7, well, at this point, it seems pretty stable. I haven't had too many issues myself. I've mentioned the others that people have had, but it seems to be pretty stable, and I would definitely say it's better than 14.4.2. But again, it's a beta. It will have issues, and if you do have issues, you'll want to report those in feedback. So I would hold off if you're waiting to have a very stable version. Just wait for the public release. And based off what we're thinking is iOS 14.5 release candidate, I thought would be out this week. It's seemingly been pushed to maybe next week. So if Apple pushes out a Beta 8, I will be very surprised, since they haven't done that in a very long time, if ever, maybe once if I remember correctly, and then we would see release candidate. So I would expect a release candidate this week, Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. The most likely is Wednesday. But if Apple plans to release this to the public this week, I would expect it a release candidate on Monday, with a public release on the 15th, when they talked about the Find My edition that they added earlier in the week. So on Wednesday, they announced a Find My update where you can use third-party applications, or third-party devices rather, with the application. And based on that, I would expect maybe the final will be out this week as well. However, if not, I would expect a release candidate and a final release the following week. I think Apple's just really trying to get this right. But all of those issues I mentioned before, make sure you report them in feedback, and I think we'll see a final release within the next 2 weeks at the most. If it goes longer than that, I'd be very surprised, and it would be new to what Apple's doing with iOS betas. So look for that, hopefully very soon. And of course, I'll let you know as soon as it's out. Now, as far as the YouTube community poll, well, here's all the statistics based off what you had to say about battery life, lag, freezing, it being slow, heat, or crashing. Much less people reported lag or freezing than the previous beta, so that's something to know or worth noting. And then also, here's all the devices you're using with iOS 14.5 Beta 7. So a lot of you commented on the poll. And like I said, I'm always blown away by how many people participate in this. Let me refresh it. And at the time of this video, there are 21,000 votes on the iOS 14.5 Beta 7 poll. And a week later, there's 34,000 on the iOS 14.4.2 poll, which is incredible. 856 comments. So I wanted to take a look at both of these. We'll take a couple comments from the 14.4.2 version, since I mentioned that last time. But as you can see here, 19% have said that iOS 14.5 Beta 7 is great. 3% say it's terrible. 5% say okay, but some bugs. 61% of you are using the public version, 14.4.2 or older, and 12% are using Android. Now on iOS 14.4.2, those numbers are a little bit different. 54% of you are saying great after 34,000 votes. 5% say terrible. I'm wondering if it's the same people, since it's fairly consistent numbers as we go back and forth. 14% are having bugs, and 12% are on the beta on this side. So it sort of lines up, not 100%, and then 15% do not use iPhones. So let's take a look at the comments here and take a look at a few of them. We'll take a look at some of the newest and then take a look at the other one as well. So if we go to the newest comments, you'll see the last one 4 hours ago. Average Dad said, not good on iPad Air 4. Battery is doing some crazy stuff. It's draining by the minute on standby mode, but not moving a single percentage when using it. And again, that goes to where there's some weird issues with the battery management, not just on the beta, but also iOS 14.4.2. So it's really dependent on what you're using. I think they're changing something there. David V says, I've noticed that my iPhone 12 has connectivity issues with Wi-Fi 6. At home, I have Wi-Fi 6, and sometimes I will need to reset my phone to get a fast connection. But at work, where we have Wi-Fi 5, it is fast every time. Both places are full Unify setups, FYI. Ender says, so I'm back with another issue. To be honest, I don't know if it could be iOS itself or my cellular carrier. But ever since a couple of days ago, my LTE has been extremely terrible. It takes actually 5 minutes to load the most basic web pages, open apps like Apple Music, and YouTube, and I've done so much to try to fix it. I really hope the next release will fix these issues with me. I may upgrade to the beta plan. And I wouldn't upgrade for that, as the beta actually has those issues as well. I've had that issue. I forgot to mention, I haven't had it with beta 7, but with beta 6, I had often had to switch to airplane mode, switch it back off to get it to connect. So it's not just you, it's other people, as well as the new beta. I did hear someone say the same issue, but I haven't seen that. And I'm using Unify or an Amplify Alien, which is Unify, and on Wi-Fi 6. So I do have that issue. Zenzil says, I'm using iPhone 12. It's awesome. Let's go ahead and take a look at 14.5 Beta 7. Now here there's 210 comments. So again, I really appreciate anyone that commented. And the first one says, we need screen gamma and manual temperature adjuster. I don't know that you'll ever see that on an iPhone, because Apple calibrates them at the factory to be as color accurate as possible. And that's kind of what they're all about, is ease of use. So maybe we'll see it, but I think that's pretty unlikely. GS122809 says iPhone 12 Pro Max works pretty well. No issues switching between Wi-Fi and cellular here. Was losing the new Siri voices in Beta 6, but not an issue with this one. Dzantra World says latest beta here. Bluetooth connectivity issues all around, including AirPods, my car, 12 Pro Max. Mibu says after the last update, 14.5 Beta 7, I was unable to make or receive phone calls using iPhone SE 2020. Great videos. Thank you. And if you can't make phone calls, of course, that's a huge problem. And I haven't seen that too much, thankfully. Try a reboot if you haven't already, or try airplane mode and go back out. Usually that will fix those issues. But again, that's one of the dangers of running a beta. Make sure you report that one in feedback as well, as they'll take a log from your phone to figure out why it actually happened. Jeremy says, great on 12 Pro Max and iPad Pro. Great battery on iPhone. No comment on iPad's 5-hour screen on time. No lag or crashing, no connectivity issues. I just bought AirPods Pro and the noise cancellation in one ear setting keeps turning off, but that's probably not the beta. That might be part of the recall they did. And if you had one that was manufactured before a certain date, they'll probably just fix that for free if it keeps happening. So make sure you try that out. If it doesn't improve, I would kind of warrant that through AppleCare if you haven't already. Gamer Rush said, no issues for me. Beta 7 is awesome. 5, 6, and 7 beta felt like a release candidate for me. No complaints. WatchOS seems to have an issue with a flickering screen as soon as I put on the watch, but nothing too serious. Goes away as soon as I start using it. Official Dante Sparta says, my battery health went down from 99 to 97 in 1 week after updating to iOS 14.5. I'm using 12 Pro. I'm not a heavy phone user. That's why I'm confused. As soon as it hits 99, it will quickly jump down, usually a couple percent after a few weeks, and then stabilize and stay there. It's just normal, and it's the physical battery itself degrading over time. It's just what happens, unfortunately. Matthew Wright said, I was noticing significant lag in Apple Auto or Apple CarPlay. It may have been network related, but it didn't seem like it as I was trying to close the Waze and reopen it. It could have been network related, but I doubt it. It's probably not network related. It could be a combination of Beta 7 and whatever car you're using as well. If Apple changes settings there and the car is not updated, sometimes it can cause slowness as far as that goes. Green tint issue not fixed on 14.5 Beta 7. iPhone 12 Pro Max just fixed on the boot up screen. So it's fixed when you're booting up, just not all around when you're using it in very dark situations where where your brightness is very low, generally is when people seem to have that. Vasile says, I'm testing this beta on iPhone 12 Pro Max. Overall, it's great. It's great because it solved many problems which were present in the previous betas. As I've said in many comments, this will be a great version of iOS 14. Amar says, on the Beta 7, I haven't had anything except photos crashing once. No other crashes, lags, stutters, or nothing. Be curious to know what device you're using as well. We'll take a look at a couple more. Samanth says, iPhone 11 Pro, App Store crashes up on every first try. It will work the second time. Battery percentage error is not fixed. Everything else is perfect. Benjamin says, using Beta 7 on my iPhone XS Max, battery seems to be improved. No stuttering, no lags. Everything seems to be very stable. Can't wait for the final release. Great work, and thank you. Hayden says, I have had loads of problems with messages, music, and Siri since being on iOS 14. Some of my messages keep disappearing, then coming back. Music artwork keeps vanishing, and then if I slid back and let go, it comes back. And Siri has just been terrible since installing iOS 14. Karma You Deserve To said, I've been using it on iPhone 12 Pro Max and it's been great. No lag and great battery. Overall, this beta has been great. And Braden says, everything is still great for me other than my AirPods Pro not wanting to stay connected. Everything is smooth and performance is on point. Battery life is also good, but not great. Overall, I think it's ready for public release. So that's it for iOS 14.5 Beta 7. I'm looking forward to the release, hopefully within a week or two. And also, I'm looking much more forward to iOS 15, which we should see in just a few months here, or a couple months away on June 7th, where we'll see iOS 15 Beta 1 with its new features, maybe a new control center, maybe some new apps. There's some hints that some of the apps will be redesigned as far as the overall logos and more. So I'm looking forward to that the most, and hopefully some new hardware very soon. The worldwide chip shortage, or the microchip shortage for processors and things, is really causing issues, and it seems to be affecting Apple now, and that's why we probably have not seen those new iPads and more right now. So I'm looking forward to those. Hopefully we'll see those soon. If you'd like to get your hands on this wallpaper, of course, I'll link it in the description like I normally do. And if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.